That elevator's for executives only, the security guard said, not even looking at her. Maya shifted the garbage bag to her other arm and stepped back. Behind her, her daughter's sketchbook slipped from the top of the cart and hit the marble floor. Nobody bent to help. "Don't worry," Maya said quietly, her voice low. "I've cleaned floors under brighter lights than these." She didn't say it for them. She said it for herself. The same way she'd survived every year since her name stopped being printed on silk backstage passes. Subscribe if you believe in second acts and silent power. You don't want to miss what's coming. She adjusted her grip on the cart, careful not to scuff the tile with the back wheel. Her name tag read Maya T, Night Crew. No one asked what the T stood for anymore. They passed her daily, dressed in tailored wool and arrogance, and never looked down. Just like the girl who laughed at her sweater last week. Just like the CEO's daughter today. They didn't know that the single mom janitor they mocked for her old clothes once designed the very dress that would win their precious fashion show. Where are you watching from? Stay with me. Because Aubrey Callahan? She just insulted the wrong woman in front of the wrong child. It started with a tissue box and a scowl. "I swear, if someone doesn't clean up that mess under the table..." Aubrey's voice rang out like a spotlight. She stood at the front desk in a designer trench and heels that hadn't seen real pavement in years. Maya knelt without a word. The cloth in her hand smelled like vinegar and lemon oil. Clara waited nearby, quietly sketching. Aubrey turned and noticed them. "Oh, wow," she said, loud enough for the receptionist to hear. "Your mom lets you come here looking like that?" Clara looked down at her too big hoodie. Maya stood up slowly, cloth still in hand. "She's not bothering anyone," Maya said. "I mean, I guess it's cute, like grunge, but sadder." Aubrey laughed. "But maybe the janitor uniform's contagious." The receptionist chuckled under her breath, even as she busied herself with the computer. Maya didn't flinch. She folded the cloth carefully, tucking it back into the bin. "Come on, Clara." Her voice was level. "Let's get the hallway next." Behind them, Aubrey's voice floated again, smug and syrupy. "Tell her to throw that sweatshirt in the donation bin before it gets confused for trash." Maya didn't turn around. She didn't need to. They walked down the west hallway, where the chatter of staff faded behind them. Just the wheels of the cart, the squeak of rubber, and the quiet scratch of Clara's pencil against paper. "Why didn't you say anything?" Clara asked softly. Maya looked ahead. "Because not every insult deserves a reply," she said. "Some of them deserve receipts." She didn't tell her that 10 years ago, that girl's mother might have worn her designs, or that 2 fashion interns had unknowingly complimented Clara's sketches last week, thinking they were part of the event. She didn't say she used to walk red carpets, not mop them. She let the silence speak. And silence could be louder than people knew. The cart hit a rough patch in the floor near the service elevator. Maya steadied it, then turned into the utility closet. She pulled the mop and bucket free and began her work. Clara sat on the bench outside, sketching again, like she always did. Not many 10-year-olds could draw like her. But then again, not many 10-year-olds had learned line symmetry before learning long division. Trisha Moore passed by and gave a polite nod. Maya nodded back. Nothing more. They weren't friends, just 2 women who noticed each other. Maya dipped the mop in the water and began with the edges of the hall, precise, clean, silent. In another wing of the building, Aubrey Callahan was making calls about her fashion show debut. In this one, Maya Torres was remembering every thread, every stitch, every look that once brought applause. No one saw the difference yet, but they would. The mop glided over the tiles with rhythmic precision, each stroke a whisper against the marble. Maya worked in silence, the hallway empty except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead and Clara's pencil scratching across the sketch pad. The child sat cross-legged on the bench, her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, focused and still. Maya paused near the glass wall that separated the west corridor from the event prep room. Through the tinted glass, silhouettes flitted past. Models, interns, camera crew. Swatches of fabric hung from racks. A large poster on an easel displayed the words Callahan Foundation Fashion for Hope Charity Gala. Friday night, Aubrey's voice cut through the muffled wall like perfume. Sweet, artificial, and sharp. She looks like she fell into a thrift store and crawled out backwards, Aubrey laughed. I swear, if I see one more sad little charity case roaming around this building. A small ripple of laughter followed. Maya didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on the floor and wrung the mop slowly. You shouldn't have to hear that, she said softly to Clara, without turning. Clara looked up from her drawing. She doesn't know anything. Maya gave a small smile. She knows enough to hurt people. That's usually more dangerous than being ignorant. At the end of the hallway, the utility closet stood open. Inside were spare uniforms, bins of supplies, and tucked in the back corner, a rolling wardrobe rack that Maya had quietly claimed over the years. Folded cloths, pins, and a small sewing kit she kept out of habit, though she hadn't used it in months. She walked to the closet and reached up to the top shelf, where a cardboard box rested beneath a faded cloth. She paused, fingers brushing over the edge of the fabric. A scrap of plum silk, soft and frayed, it was all that remained of a gown she'd once spent 3 months designing. The dress had made headlines in Europe, worn once, stolen in a merger deal that buried her name in legal silence. She tucked the silk back into the box and shut the closet door. Footsteps approached. Maya turned and saw Tricia Moore coming down the hall, holding a clipboard and a bundle of tangled lanyards. Tricia slowed when she spotted Maya. Hey, she said, polite but hesitant. Busy morning. Maya offered a nod. They've got cameras today. Yeah, big show. It's the first time Aubrey's doing something philanthropic, so everything's being documented. Tricia crouched next to Clara's bench, looking over her shoulder. These are really good, she said. Yours? Clara nodded. You ever take a class? Clara looked at her mother, then shook her head. Well, Tricia said with a small smile, you've got a natural hand. Some of those lines, they remind me of a designer I used to love. Torres Originals. You ever hear of her? Maya's breath caught, but only briefly. Clara froze. No, Maya said, voice even. Doesn't ring a bell. Huh, Tricia stood. Just the way the draping's drawn. I used to intern in fashion PR back in the day. We had this one designer, M. Torres. Only showed collections for 5 years, then vanished. People still talk about her silhouettes. Maya offered a faint smile and kept her hands busy rearranging her cart. Tricia didn't press. Anyway, she said, adjusting the lanyards, if you're near the event floor later, steer clear. Aubrey's on a tear. One of the tailors hemmed a dress wrong, and she threatened to have him banned from the industry. Maya said nothing. Tricia started walking away, then hesitated. I meant it, she added, about the sketches. That kid's got something rare. When she was gone, Maya returned to mopping. The hallway smelled like ammonia and faint perfume. You okay? Clara asked quietly. Maya didn't answer right away. She moved to the edge of the hallway, near the door to the event room. A rolling rack of dresses had been pushed halfway into the corridor, one sleeve dragging across the floor. She gently lifted the silk off the ground and folded it over the bar. Pale lavender, bias cut. The hem was uneven, sloppily stitched. They don't know how to listen to fabric anymore, she murmured. Clara tilted her head. You say that when people use too many pins. Maya smiled faintly. They stabbed the cloth instead of shaping it. Back at her cart, Maya replaced the mop head and checked the time. The show was 2 days away. The prep chaos would only grow louder from here. She looked at Clara's sketch again. It was a girl in a fitted jacket with asymmetric buttons in a flared panel skirt. Clean lines, measured proportions, and something unmistakable in the slope of the waistline. Maya's signature curve. Her hand drifted toward the pencil lying next to the sketchbook. She picked it up, lightly adjusted the hem on the drawing, and handed it back. "You forgot one pin tuck," she said quietly. "Here," Clara smiled. "I knew it didn't look right." Maya smoothed her daughter's hair. "It's not just about looking right. It's about feeling like it breathes." And in that moment, as the hallway buzzed with people preparing for a show that didn't yet know its real star, Maya Torres quietly remembered who she was and who she had never stopped being. Maya stood at the end of the hallway, quietly watching as a group of interns wheeled in a new batch of mannequins. A few bumped against the walls. One nearly tipped. None of them noticed her. She continued mopping, slow and steady. Her movements practiced, precise. Every inch of her posture said, "invisible," and the building gladly obeyed. Clara remained on the bench, sketchpad in her lap, completely absorbed in her newest design. Her pencil traced sharp shoulders and structured sleeves. A layered capelet. No ruler, but the angles were nearly perfect. The hall's double doors swung open, and a flurry of sound burst into the corridor. Heels clicking, bags rustling, voices overlapping. "He said the fabric would be here by noon. No one pressed the dresses yet. Someone find the second look for the green sequins." Amid the noise, Aubrey entered in a fitted white blazer and oversized sunglasses. She waved her phone in one hand and trailed a scent that smelled like money and mirrors. Her eyes fell on Clara. What is she doing here again? Maya looked up but didn't respond. Aubrey frowned, gesturing at the sketchpad. "Seriously? I thought we said staff kids don't belong in event prep zones. This is a professional space, not daycare." Maya's grip on the mop tightened. She kept her voice measured. "She's just drawing. Quietly. She's not in anyone's way. Well, she's a distraction. And the last thing I need is someone bumping into a $12,000 gown with a juice box." Clara didn't say a word. Her pencil paused mid-line. "She's not drinking anything," Maya said. "And she's not near your dresses." Aubrey scoffed. "You people always think the rules don't apply when there's a sob story involved." The words landed hard, but Maya didn't flinch. She just returned to the tile. But Clara, she was watching, absorbing, memorizing. The child's fingers dug into the edge of the sketchpad. One of the interns standing behind Aubrey glanced down at Clara's page. Then again, a crease formed between her brows. "Sorry," the girl said. "Is that your sketch?" Clara blinked. "Yes." The intern crouched beside her. "That's really clean work." "Is it original?" Clara nodded. Aubrey rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. Everyone's a designer now. Next thing you know, the janitor's going to demand a slot in the show." The intern stood. Quickly, face flushed. "I just meant, the proportions are professional? Like they look like something from..." Her eyes flicked to Maya, then down to Clara, then back again. "Never mind," she mumbled and hurried off. Aubrey muttered something under her breath and strutted toward the staging area, snapping her fingers for someone to follow. The hallway quieted again. Clara kept her eyes on her lap. Maya finished her section and wrung out the mop. "She didn't mean it," Maya said gently. Clara looked up. "But she said it like I was nothing." Maya walked over and sat beside her. placing a hand on the sketch pad. People who feel small spend their lives trying to make others feel smaller. Clara didn't answer. Her jaw was set in a way Maya recognized. The same jawline, the same stubborn line of the mouth. Maya pulled out a folded rag and began polishing the hallway's brass signage. The small plaque read, Founder's Wing, established 1992 by Malcolm Callahan. Beneath it, someone had carelessly left a scuff of black boot polish. Maya scrubbed it clean until the gold caught the light again. A door opened behind them. Tricia stepped out of the HR office, holding a stack of folders. She stopped mid-step when she saw Clara's drawing. Wow, she said. Clara, is it? Clara nodded cautiously. Tricia crouched to look closer. That stitching pattern, she said. It's Torres' method. The layered waist taper? Only 2 people I know ever used that curve. Maya's back was to them. Her shoulders tensed, but she didn't turn. Clara shifted slightly. It's how my mom showed me. Tricia looked up at Maya, then back at the page. You know, I was just telling someone. Torres's work still circulates in design forums. Some say she was ahead of her time. Maya finally turned around, face neutral. That was a long time ago. Tricia rose slowly. But not forgotten. There was a pause, a beat too long. Then Tricia nodded once, as if making a private decision, and walked away without saying more. Maya watched her go. She knew the leak had started. It was small now. A whisper, a passing comment, a flicker of recognition in someone's eyes. But whispers, in the right spaces, could travel faster than headlines. Clara looked up. What's the Torres method? Maya smiled faintly. It's just a way of seeing fabric. Like drawing with thread? Clara lit up. Can you show me later? Maya nodded. I'll show you everything. When the time's right. She glanced toward the frosted glass of the fashion wing, where silhouettes moved in rushed choreography. They were sewing a disaster in there, and they didn't even know it yet. The next morning, Maya arrived an hour earlier than usual. She preferred the quiet before the day's noise set in, the stillness where no one watched and nothing was expected of her. The lights in the hallway flickered to life as she pushed her cart along the marble floor. The smell of lemon oil lingering faintly from yesterday's clean. Clara was already sitting on the bench, sketchpad open across her knees. She'd insisted on coming again, even before the sun had risen. Maya didn't argue. She knew the signs. Clara drew harder when she was hurt. They didn't talk about Aubrey's insult. They didn't need to. Clara's pencil lines were sharp today, angled. Her usual fluidity replaced with deliberate tension. Maya leaned the mop against the wall and knelt to untangle the vacuum cord. That's when she noticed the manila envelope resting beside the janitor closet door. No name, no markings, just sealed and slid slightly under the frame. She picked it up, cautious, and opened it slowly. Inside was a magazine clipping, a fashion industry profile from almost 12 years ago. Torres of Milan, the architect of emotion. The picture was unmistakable. Her, standing beside a model draped in a midnight blue gown, her hand resting delicately on the train. She remembered that shoot. It had rained that day. Underneath the article, scribbled in pen, "Thought you might want this back." Some of us remember. T.M. Maya folded the clipping carefully, slid it into her pocket, and said nothing. Across the hall, the fashion show prep room buzzed to life. Interns scrambled with steamers and garment bags. Someone knocked over a makeup case. Voices rose in frustrated bursts. "Where's the backup thread?" "No, that hem's too short. Can we fix it?" "The dress for the closing model. Who had it last?" Maya heard it all through the wall and kept sweeping. A familiar voice cut through the noise. "I swear, if I see one more crooked stitch, I'm canceling the entire sequence." Aubrey. Maya moved toward the hallway outside the fitting room. The door was cracked open, and through it, she could see the growing chaos. Dresses hung, half-finished. A mannequin stood lopsided, with one sleeve missing. The lead seamstress looked exhausted, clutching a roll of tape like a lifeline. In the center of the room, Aubrey barked instructions into her phone. "No, Mother. I'm not overthinking it. It has to be perfect. This isn't just another event. This is my event, Clara." Still seated on her bench, leaned forward and whispered, "They're falling apart in there." Maya didn't respond. She walked to her cart, retrieved the folded silk from the top shelf, plum, frayed at the edge, and tucked it into her apron pocket. Inside the prep room, the frustration built. "Who approved this hemline? It's hideous. We need a backup gown for look 7. Now Trisha stepped into the room, holding a clipboard, and paused. Her eyes scanned the disarray before landing on Aubrey. "There's an issue with the designer," she said quietly. Aubrey snapped her head up. "What kind of issue?" "She's threatening to walk. Says the changes you demanded compromise the integrity of her line," Aubrey scoffed. "Oh, please. She's replaceable." "Not 2 days before the show," Trisha said calmly. A beat of silence passed. Aubrey's jaw clenched. "She signed a contract. She walks, we sue." Trisha didn't flinch. "Sure, but we won't have a show." Aubrey turned away. Muttering into her phone again, Trisha stepped outside the room and almost collided with Maya. "Oh, sorry," she said, catching herself. Then her eyes softened. "Did you get the envelope?" Maya nodded once. "Didn't say anything. Just thought. Maybe you needed to remember." Maya looked down at the worn edge of the mop in her hand. Then at Clara, who had now started redrawing an old sketch with a new bodice structure. "I never forgot," Maya said. "I just had reasons to stop remembering out loud." Trisha glanced behind her at the mess unfolding inside. "You might get pulled into something," she said quietly. "And if you don't want that, tell me now." Maya didn't answer. Instead, she walked past her and toward the open fitting room door. She didn't go in, just stood at the edge. Inside, 2 assistants were arguing over fabric swatches. The designer's voice was nowhere to be heard. One of the models tried to zip a dress herself, snagging the seam. Maya's eyes scanned the room like a seamstress evaluating a garment from the inside out. "I used to close shows," she murmured. Clara looked up from her sketchbook. "What?" she asked. Maya didn't repeat herself. But in her mind, the music had already started, the lights were already rising, and the stitches were already falling apart. Clara's pencil moved with a different rhythm now. Less sketching, more carving. Each line carried the sharpness of a thought held too long. Maya watched her from across the hall, cloth in hand, gently wiping fingerprints from the glass panel between them and the event room. Inside, a model raised her arms while 2 assistants argued over which swatch of silk to drape. Another stumbled over a pinned hemline and nearly twisted her ankle. Maya turned away. She didn't need to see more to know the truth. They were trying to build a show on unstable stitches and ego. She returned to the janitor's closet to fetch a clean cloth. The rack in the corner caught her eye again, her little sanctuary of forgotten fabric. She opened one of the lower drawers and pulled out a folded pattern draft. Pencil lines, marked in centimeters, with faint creases where it had been smoothed and reused. Torres curve, version 2.3. She hadn't touched it in almost a decade, yet her hands unfolded it like muscle memory. Outside the closet, voices rose. "Where's look 7? That model's waiting. Don't tell me we lost it. Check the fitting stand." No one pressed the lining. "Ugh, this is amateur hour." Maya tucked the pattern away and walked out. At the far end of the hallway, The rolling garment rack had been shoved halfway into the corridor again. On it hung 3 gowns, and below them, a pair of hand-stitched gloves had fallen to the floor. No one had picked them up. Clara beat her to it. She bent down, held the gloves gently, and looked at the embroidery. "They stitched the lining backwards," she whispered. "The thumb seam's inside out," Maya joined her. "How can you tell?" "The stitching's crooked." "It tugs when it shouldn't." Maya took the glove and turned it inside out. Clara was right. A clean showpiece ruined by rushing. And this was supposed to be look 7? Maya adjusted the glove quietly, tucking it back onto the rack without comment. The hallway door pushed open behind them, and the model who'd nearly fallen earlier stepped out. Tall, elegant, but visibly frustrated. "Excuse me," she asked. "Do either of you know how to fix a busted hem?" Clara blinked. Maya straightened. "Is it loose or torn?" The model hesitated. "Both, maybe." "It caught on my heel and ripped. They said to wear a different gown, but this was the closer fit, and the backup looks like a curtain." Maya stepped forward. "Show me." The model led them to the bench, pulled the dress from its bag, and laid it out. Maya ran her fingers over the tier. Diagonal, half-inch split. The thread used was too delicate for the fabric's tension. "Too much weight for single stitching," she murmured. "You'll need reinforcement, or it'll rip again before the first turn." The model frowned. "Can you fix it?" Maya didn't answer. She reached into the supply cart and pulled out a roll of neutral thread, a curved needle, and her old hand thimble. She hadn't used it in years, but it still fit. She worked quickly, quietly. Clara held the fabric taut while Maya restitched the seam with a modified backstitch, short, strong, invisible from the front. The model watched in stunned silence. 5 minutes later, Maya handed the dress back. "Test the hem again," she said. The model slipped into it behind a privacy divider and returned moments later, turning slowly in place. "It's smoother now," she said. "No pull." Maya nodded once. The door opened again, this time an assistant, flustered and red-faced. "There you are. What are you doing out here? We've been calling for you." The model held up a hand. "This seam was tearing." She fixed it. The assistant's eyes darted to Maya. She knew exactly where it failed and how to reinforce it. "Look, no puckering." The assistant blinked. "How did she?" The model shrugged. "Maybe someone around here knows what they're doing." Without waiting, she walked past the assistant and re-entered the fitting room. The assistant lingered. "That was fast," she said, half to herself. Maya turned back to her cart. "Don't worry. I won't charge you for it." She began coiling the thread back onto the spool. Clara smirked, just a little. The assistant stood frozen. Another beat, then followed the model inside. As the hallway settled again, Maya felt Clara slide closer. "You still sew like you never stopped," Clara whispered. Maya looked down at her hands. "It's not the hands that forget. It's the heart. And sometimes the world makes you hide." Both Clara nodded. "They're starting to see you now." Maya didn't answer, but she knew the leak had cracked wider. Not a flood. Not yet, but enough. Inside the prep room, the voices had changed tone. Quieter, more curious. Somewhere in the noise, a question floated above the others. "Who fixed that?" No one answered, but the name was already forming. The hallway buzzed differently now. Not louder, just sharper. People still moved past Maya like she wasn't there. But some of them glanced back. Not long, not directly. Just a flicker, like they were trying to make sense of something they'd overlooked. She was still in her janitor uniform, still had gloves in her pocket, and a mop leaning against the wall. But something had shifted in the air, and Maya felt it. So did Clara. "Everyone's talking about the hem," she whispered, scribbling quick lines into her sketch pad. That model told two others. One said it looked better than when it was first made. Maya kept wiping down the windows with smooth, even strokes. They'll forget it by lunch. But she didn't believe that. Not anymore. Down the hall, a burst of frustration broke through the glass wall. Aubrey's voice. This zipper is useless. If it snags on the runway, it'll ruin the whole finale. A chair scraped, a door slammed, footsteps followed, fast, uneven, echoing. Then a familiar assistant rushed out, dress in hand, looking pale and panicked. "Trisha!" she called. "Where's Trisha?" Maya turned slightly. The assistant froze when she saw her. You fixed the hem yesterday." Maya nodded once. The girl looked around, hesitated, then walked over, holding the dress out like a bomb she didn't want to trigger. "The zipper's catching, and it's one of the closing looks. Aubrey's threatening to cut the model and the whole lineup if it doesn't get fixed." Maya examined the fabric without speaking. It was fine mesh layered over a silk blend, stitched with an invisible coil zipper that had already started to buckle from stress. The tension between the bodice panels had been miscalculated. Again. "You want a quick fix or a permanent one?" she asked calmly. The assistant blinked. "Permanent. We can't risk it failing mid-walk." Maya motioned to the bench. The assistant laid the dress down like it was sacred. Clara sat beside her mother and handed her the emergency kit from the cleaning cart. A needle, fine thread, a small leather thimble. Maya pulled the zipper free from the seam's edge with quiet precision. "I don't get it," the assistant murmured, watching her. "How do you know this stuff?" "I've sewn longer than most of you have walked in heels," Maya replied, gently realigning the fabric. Clara smirked. "You work here?" the assistant asked, still half confused. "I clean. But you're better than the tailors they hired." Maya didn't respond. The needle danced between her fingers, pulling the fabric together in an invisible diagonal lock that redistributed the tension evenly. She wasn't just repairing the dress. She was rebuilding its spine. 5 minutes later, the zipper glided smooth as water. "Tell her not to force it shut again," Maya said. "If it sticks once more, the mesh will split." The assistant took the dress reverently. "She's not going to like that." "She doesn't have to." As the assistant hurried back inside, Clara leaned her head against Maya's shoulder. "Do you miss it?" Maya looked down at her hands. A slight tremor had started beneath her knuckles. She pressed her fingers together until it stopped. "Sometimes," she said. "But missing it doesn't mean I regret leaving." Clara nodded. "I think it's still waiting for you." Maya let her eyes drift back to the window. Inside, the assistant was holding the dress up to the light for Aubrey. The zipper worked cleanly now. A few heads turned. Aubrey crossed her arms, but said nothing. Then someone else pointed toward the hallway, toward Maya. Trisha entered the prep room moments later, her expression unreadable. She listened to the assistant speak, looked at the dress, and then turned toward the glass. Her gaze met Maya's through the reflection. Maya didn't look away. She was done looking away. Trisha stepped out, closing the door behind her. "That was you, wasn't it?" she asked. Maya nodded. "They'll want more." "I'm not here to save their show." Trisha crossed her arms, her voice quiet but direct. "But you could?" Maya sighed. "I'm not a designer anymore." "Says who?" Maya turned to her. "You saw what happened when I stopped being one. They stripped my name from my own work. That was years ago. And they didn't erase it. They just buried it. People are starting to dig." Trisha hesitated, then pulled a card from her blazer. "If this implodes, which it might, someone's going to need to take the lead. I'm not saying step in now, but if that moment comes..." Maya took the card, glanced at it, then slid it into her pocket. "I don't owe them anything." "No." Trisha said. But maybe you owe yourself the chance to decide who you are now. She left without waiting for a reply. Maya sat down next to Clara. The girl reached out and held her hand without saying a word. Behind the glass, the room swirled with movement again. But for the first time in a long time, Maya wasn't just cleaning up after someone else's mess. She was watching a pattern fall apart and deciding whether to finish it herself. By noon, the prep room had become a storm with no eye. Steamers hissed, fabric rustled, voices collided. The tension was a living thing now, coiling itself into every interaction, every snapped thread, every misplaced look. The designer, a sharp-jawed woman named Elise, had locked herself inside the fitting lounge. No one had seen her for nearly 40 minutes. Maya watched the unraveling from the hallway bench beside Clara, both of them silent, both of them listening. "Do you hear that?" Clara asked. Maya nodded. "It's the sound of someone about to walk out." Inside the prep room, Aubrey's voice rose again, shrill and clipped. "I don't care what she thinks. This is my show. She works for me. If she doesn't like it, she can leave." Another voice, calmer but strained, followed Trisha. "We can't afford a full walkout. She has control over all 12 looks. The models are fitted to her cuts. Then tell her to unfit them." A beat. "That's not how it works, Aubrey." A chair scraped violently across the floor. The door to the fitting lounge swung open hard enough to hit the wall. Elise stepped out, eyes sharp, clipboard in hand. "I'm not salvaging incompetence just to flatter your ego," she said flatly. "You force changes to the lineup that destroy the flow of the entire collection." Aubrey stepped forward. "Too fast, too loud. You don't get to tell me what my gala is supposed to feel like. Then do it yourself," Elise snapped. She handed the clipboard to Trisha and walked out. Just like that. No ceremony, no apology. Just the soft click of the door closing behind her. The room fell into stunned silence. Then chaos. "Who's going to run the show now? We've got fittings in 2 hours. The lineup's not even final." Trisha stood frozen for a moment, then quickly snapped into motion. She turned toward the hallway. Maya was already standing. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Trisha stepped closer. "I can't force this. I know. But I don't think you're invisible anymore." Maya glanced through the open doorway. Models were standing barefoot in half-draped garments. One dress hung on a mannequin without sleeves. An intern was crying quietly by the light board. "I'll look," Maya said. "That's all I'm agreeing to." She walked through the door for the first time. Not as a janitor, not as a ghost. Clara didn't follow. She stayed on the bench, watching her mother cross the threshold like it was a stage. The room noticed. The silence she stepped into wasn't empty. It was full of eyes, waiting. Maya moved to the rack of garments Elise had left behind. She flipped through them, one by one. Silk, tulle, charmeuse, technically ambitious, but disconnected. The pieces had no voice. They spoke in fragments, not flow. She reached the end of the rack and stopped. There it was. Look 12. The finale. Or at least, it had tried to be. A two-tone dress with layered organza in a structured bodice. But the lines were confused. Too much tension in the bust. The skirt hung like it wasn't sure whether to float or fall. "This was meant to close?" Maya asked quietly. Trisha nodded. Maya ran her fingers along the seam. "Where's the original sketch?" No one moved. Then one of the assistants rushed to a binder near the stage light setup, pulled out a folder, and handed it to Maya. Inside was Elise's concept sheet, a half-finished design, sharp angles, missing drape notes. Maya studied it. "No wonder she left," she muttered. Trisha stepped closer. "Can you fix it?" "I can build something from it," Maya said. "But I'm not finishing her vision. I'll need full clearance to restructure the lineup. And time Aubrey approached then, arms crossed. Wait, you're just the janitor. You think I'm handing you my show because you fixed a few zippers? Maya met her eyes without blinking. I think your show doesn't exist anymore. Not unless someone rewrites it. Aubrey opened her mouth, but Trisha raised a hand. She's right, Trisha said. We have no designer, no looks locked, no fittings completed. Maya's the only one in this building who's actually held it together. Aubrey's lips curled in disbelief. This is insane! Trisha handed her the clipboard. Then find someone else in the next 15 minutes who can restructure 12 outfits, refit 6 models, and create a closing sequence worth filming. Aubrey stared down at the clipboard. She didn't move, didn't speak. Then finally she looked at Maya. Not with respect, not yet, but not with mockery either. What do you need? Maya turned to the staff. 1 large workspace, full access to every garment and supply. And I need my daughter in the room. She's not staff. She's my assistant. Trisha nodded once. Approved. Aubrey hesitated, but didn't object. Maya took the binder, rolled up her sleeves, and faced the room. We'll start with look 1. It needs air between the pleats. And whoever stitched that neckline, grab a seam ripper. The assistants jumped into motion. Clara entered moments later, already unfolding her sketch pad. For the first time in years, Maya Torres stood in a design studio again, not as a name in an article, but as the mind in the room. And the room was finally listening. The lighting techs had dimmed the fluorescents to keep the models from overheating, but the room still radiated heat from steamers, tension, and something else now. Movement with purpose. Maya stood at the center of it all. Sleeves rolled, binder open beside her, hands in motion. She wasn't barking orders. She didn't need to. Her voice was low but firm, her pacing precise, her instructions unshakably clear. Let the shoulder seams breathe. 3 millimeters more on the left pleat? Trust me. That neckline doesn't frame the collarbone. It swallows it. Clara moved beside her like they'd rehearsed this for years. She held the chalk pencil as Maya marked adjustments directly on fabric. Assistants watched closely, then mimicked. Models stood straighter when she approached. The mop bucket in the hallway had been pushed aside. Her name tag still read Night Crew. No one mentioned it now. Trisha returned from a call and approached Maya quietly. The press list's locked. You've got 2 major outlets attending, Trendline and Metropolitan style. If this show collapses, it won't, Maya said. But if it stumbles, tell them the original designer walked and I was brought in to finish. Trisha raised an eyebrow. That's generous. Maya smoothed a skirt on the mannequin. It's strategic. She didn't need Elise's drama muddying the recovery arc. This was no longer about credit. It was about delivering something undeniable. Besides, Maya added, I'm not here for headlines. I'm here to prove something to myself. Clara looked up. And to me, Maya smiled. You already believed. They moved on to look 4. A sharp A-line dress with a back slit that gaped too wide. Maya undid the pins and restructured the drape, flipping the fabric inward to let the lining carry the weight. Behind them, murmurs grew. She reworked that in 20 minutes. Did she just teach me how to rebalance bias cuts? I thought she was janitorial staff. Trisha overheard and leaned toward the murmuring interns. She's both. Aubrey hadn't spoken in over an hour. She stood at the far end of the room, watching from near the lighting rig. Her blazer was off. Her phone was in her hand. Forgotten. Every few minutes, her gaze drifted to Maya's hands. Never her face, just the work. Then she walked over. Maya didn't look up. Is that still your daughter? Aubrey asked, nodding toward Clara, who was carefully pinning swatches onto a vision board. Yes, she's fast. She's learning. Aubrey hesitated. That sketch yesterday, I thought she copied it from something. It looked professional. It was, Maya said. A beat. I didn't know, Aubrey admitted, tone stiff. I know. Maya kept working. Aubrey stood in silence, then turned and walked away. It wasn't an apology, but it was a retreat. By late afternoon, 6 of the 12 looks had been completely reshaped. 3 others were in process. The team had gone from disjointed chaos to a humming machine, held together not by panic, but by clarity. Clara unfolded a fresh sheet of paper and began redrawing the order of the lineup, based on Maya's revisions. Maya crouched by the final rack, the one Elise had left untouched, and pulled out a half-draped piece of raw fabric. It was the base of Look 12, the supposed finale. It had no form, no soul, just a frame without intention. Maya stared at it. Trisha stepped beside her. You don't have to use it. I know. You could replace it with one of your own. From scratch, Maya's fingers traced the hem. No time. Clara stood behind her now, holding the sketch pad out. I tried something, she said. Maya took the pad. Clara had redrawn Look 12, but it wasn't Elise's. It was something else. A long, structured column dress with a hidden side fold that unfurled like a petal when the model turned. Simple, intentional, quiet. It was hers, but also Clara's. Maya looked at her daughter. You remember that dress? The one you never finished. The one you said was for no one. Maya nodded. I think it's for this, Clara said. Maya turned to the team. We're scrapping Look 12. Gasps followed. Aubrey looked up. That's the finale. Not anymore. Clara handed the sketch pad to Trisha. Trisha studied it. It's bold. It's clean, Maya said, and it'll close the show like a full stop. Trisha looked around the room. Then let's get to work. They split into groups. Clara joined 2 interns at the cutting table. Maya began adjusting the bodice pattern. Someone started steaming fabric in the corner. And for the first time since the original designer walked out, the room didn't feel like it was trying to survive. It felt like it was creating. Maya stood in the center, hair tied back, sweat on her brow, pin cushion around her wrist, and didn't think once about what she was wearing. Because this wasn't about fabric anymore. It was about fit. And finally, she fit. The sun was beginning to set, casting a deep amber glow through the glass walls of the prep room. Fabric caught the light like water, shimmering with every movement. Maya stood over the cutting table with her hands pressed flat against the pattern paper, breath even, posture steady. It had been hours since anyone asked who she was. Now they only asked what she needed. Clara knelt beside a model, chalking temporary hemlines under Maya's guidance. The girl's confidence had bloomed, not from praise, but from trust. Maya gave it freely, the same way someone once gave it to her. Line that edge with basting tape before you pin, Maya said gently, nodding toward the bodice. It'll hold longer under lighting heat. The interns responded without hesitation, their hands moving in sync. They weren't afraid of her, not the way they'd been afraid of Elise. They followed her, not because she demanded it, but because her results spoke first. At the far corner of the room, Look 12 was coming together. The deep blue fabric lay flat, pressed and cut with surgical precision. The design was evolving. What had started as Clara's sketch had become a true collaboration. Maya shaped the silhouette. Clara adjusted the movement. The dress held both of their signatures now. Trisha walked in with a clipboard. Models are in hair and makeup. First fitting call in 40 minutes, Maya didn't look up. 3 more seams on 12. It'll be ready. Trisha hovered near the edge of the table, watching her work. The way they look at you now, even Aubrey, it's different. It doesn't matter how they look at me, Maya said, eyes still focused on the thread she was pulling. It matters that they're finally seeing. Clara glanced at her mother, then nodded quietly. Across the room, a young assistant walked over with a tray of jewelry samples. We pulled these for look 12. If it's okay? Maya glanced down. They were oversized, glittering, too loud. She shook her head. No jewelry. The assistant blinked. None. It doesn't need it. This piece isn't trying to impress. It's trying to close a sentence. She turned back to the dress. The hem was finished now. She smoothed it out and stepped back. Clara stepped forward, arms crossed as she studied it. I think it's the best thing you've made, she said. Maya looked at her daughter, quiet pride flickering in her eyes. No, she said. We made it. Outside the prep room, the main lobby was transforming. Velvet ropes had been set up along the runway path, with lighting rigs positioned at dramatic angles. Guests were already arriving in waves of black car service cars. Photographers hovered at the entry, badges swinging from their necks. Inside the prep room, tension started to shift from preparation to performance. Model lineup finalized, an intern called. Walk order locked. Trisha re-entered, now dressed for the event. She looked at Maya. They want to know if there's a name to list on the show card. For the finale look, Maya paused. Then, after a long moment, she said, List it under Clara Torres. Clara's head whipped around. What? Maya smiled. You redrew it. You shaped it. It carries your hands. But it's your design, Maya nodded. And you're the reason it exists. Trisha scribbled on her clipboard. You sure? I'm sure, Maya said. The moment hung in the air like fabric mid-fall. Then came the final fitting. The model stepped into look 12 like it belonged to her. The zipper slid up without resistance. The seams kissed the skin. The hem floated just above the floor. The side fold rested flat until she turned. When she did, the dress bloomed. It wasn't a flower. It was a reveal. Quiet, clean, undeniable. The room stilled. Then someone whispered, That's the one. And everyone knew. Aubrey approached, arms still crossed. She stared at the dress, her brow furrowed, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with something closer to confusion. She looked at Maya. This is the closing piece? Maya met her gaze calmly. Yes. Aubrey studied it a moment longer, then finally nodded. I don't like admitting when I'm wrong, she said. I noticed. But this? It's good. Maya didn't reply. Aubrey hesitated. You should be in the credits. I am, Maya said. You just can't see it on paper. Aubrey walked away. The team gathered their final tools. Steaming halted. Pins vanished into jars. Threads were clipped. The prep room exhaled for the first time all day. Maya stood with Clara at the far wall, watching as the lineup formed. You ready? Maya asked. Clara nodded. Are you? Maya looked toward the main doors, where murmurs of the audience echoed louder now. I think I've always been. The lights dimmed. A single line of gold traced down the runway, illuminating the path ahead like the first stroke of chalk on untouched fabric. Backstage, the models stood in silent formation. Dresses breathed around them, alive with motion and anticipation. Maya stood at the edge of the curtain, arms folded, watching, not nervously, but like a composer listening for her first note. Clara stood beside her, fingers clutching her sketch pad against her chest. She was quiet, but her eyes darted between the models, the lighting cues, the countdown monitor. She knew every step. She'd drawn every silhouette. Aubrey hovered further back, flanked by 2 PR assistants and a stylist who no longer seemed relevant. Her expression was unreadable. Her name was on the flyers, the backdrop, the invites, But the show? The show no longer belonged to her. Trisha stepped forward, earpiece in place, clipboard tight in hand. "We're starting," she said, then added, "They're watching, Maya." The whole front row, Maya nodded once. A soft hum filled the room. The intro music. Minimal, percussive. Like a heartbeat stretched across silence. The first model stepped into the light. A gasp rippled through the audience. Not loud, but audible enough for Maya to hear it from backstage. The A-line dress floated with restructured pleats, the shoulders breathing as the model moved. Light pooled across the fabric, like it had been waiting its whole life to be seen. Then came the second, the third. Each piece carried Maya's touch. Subtle corrections, rebalanced weight, stitched clarity. They didn't shout. They didn't beg for attention. They simply worked. And in doing so, they silenced the crowd. Backstage, assistants whispered notes. A model gripped Clara's hand before her cue. Another touched Maya's shoulder in thanks before stepping out. Then came look 9, a structured satin suit Clara had helped retailor. The audience leaned forward, phones lifted. A woman in the second row whispered something to the editor beside her. Maya recognized the editor. Years ago, she'd reviewed Maya's last public collection with 5 stars and an uncredited quote. "Torres doesn't design clothes. She tells truths through seams." Now here she was, watching again, unknowing look. 10 turned the corner, sleeves rippling with every step. 11 followed with a deep V neckline corrected just hours earlier. No puckering, no strain, every angle intact. Then the lights dimmed further. A hush fell. The music slowed. And look 12 entered. The model's first step was deliberate. The dress held firm across her frame, commanding silence. Then she turned, and the fold unfolded. It was simple, quiet, but undeniable. Maya felt it in the air, a suspension, a shared moment where breath caught and didn't let go. There were no gasps this time, no whispers, just stillness. The kind of stillness that meant the audience was not watching. They were witnessing. From the far side of the crowd, flashbulbs popped. Not frantic, focused, intent. Clara's hand found Maya's. "She's perfect," Clara whispered. "She's wearing you," Maya replied. The final walk began. All 12 models reappeared, falling into step, lining the runway edge as the lights pulsed warmer. The crowd, stunned into stillness, now responded. Applause started softly, then grew. By the time look 12 returned to the spotlight, the clapping had turned to cheers. Aubrey stepped out first, giving a short, practiced wave. The photographers caught her profile, but the room's energy was not on her. Trisha stepped up next, directing the flow as guests rose from their seats. Then, a voice from the crowd. "Who designed the finale?" Another followed. "What label was that?" Maya didn't move. She wasn't scheduled to walk out. That wasn't the role she had here. But then Clara tugged gently at her sleeve. "They want to know," she said. Maya hesitated. Behind her, the door to the prep room was still ajar. Her name tag hung on a chair. Maya T., night crew. She stepped forward anyway. Only a few steps. Not center stage. Not into the lights. Just enough to be seen. Clara followed, notebook still in hand. And someone in the crowd stood up. The editor from Trendline. Her gaze locked on Maya, and recognition flickered. Not immediate, but earned. She raised her phone and took a photo. Not of the dress, not of the model, but of Maya and Clara, standing just outside the spotlight, hand in hand. The applause didn't change, but something deeper did. A shift, a ripple. The kind of change that doesn't announce itself, but arrives with quiet certainty. Backstage again, Maya exhaled. Clara leaned into her side. "Do you miss it now?" Maya looked out over the crowd. The camera lights? The sea of praise she no longer needed. No, she said, because this time, I didn't give it away. The crowd filtered out in waves, murmuring with the soft urgency of people who'd just seen something they didn't expect to feel. Some clutched their programs like they held more value now. Others checked their phones, trying to match what they'd witnessed with a name that still hadn't been formally announced. Backstage, the noise was different. Lighter, electric, a current passing from one person to another. I've never seen a recovery like that. She came in with nothing and pulled this off in a day. That finale, that wasn't Elise. That was something else Maya didn't respond to any of. It. She sat on a folding chair near the back, her eyes on Clara, who was crouched beside a model, helping her unbuckle a pair of gold heels. The girl's hands moved with the same care Maya once used when dressing models in Paris. Gentle, knowing, never rushed. Trisha approached slowly, now without her clipboard. They're asking for you. Maya looked up. The press? She asked. Trisha nodded. 3 outlets, 1 fashion podcast, and someone from the Callahan board. Maya raised an eyebrow. What for? They want to talk to the woman who saved the show. Maya gave a half smile and glanced down at her hands, still inked with thread lines, still dusted with chalk powder. I didn't save it, she said. I corrected it. Trisha didn't argue. Just so you know, she added, I submitted your name for the company's creative development initiative. They'll reach out. Whether you want it or not, that door's cracked open now. Maya didn't answer. Not yet. She watched as Clara helped the model to her feet and offered her a bottle of water. The woman smiled and ruffled Clara's hair. Something maternal flickered in her face, like she'd recognized something rare, something real. The curtain behind the prep area shifted. Aubrey walked through, still dressed in the same outfit, her makeup slightly faded from the lights. But there was a stiffness to her shoulders now. Not from pride, almost from weight. She paused when she saw Maya, then walked over. Clara looked up but didn't move. Maya stood. Aubrey stopped in front of her. Her voice was quiet, controlled. I didn't thank you. You didn't have to, Maya said. I do. Aubrey looked around, then back. If you hadn't stepped in, you would have survived. You just wouldn't have succeeded. That landed. Aubrey didn't argue. She shifted her footing. Everyone's calling it your show. The press will spin it either way. They're already saying, anonymous designer saved Callahan's fashion gala. Maya didn't smile. Let them. Aubrey exhaled. I know I didn't treat you fairly, or like a person, but I saw what you did out there. Maya tilted her head slightly. And it was better than anything Elise submitted. Silence passed between them. Finally, Aubrey added, if there's another event, I'd like you to consider leading it. With your name on it this time? Maya's jaw didn't move. Her hands stayed at her sides. My name never disappeared, she said. It was just waiting. Aubrey nodded. Not forced, not eager, just real. She turned to Clara. You have her eyes, she said. No, Clara replied softly. I have her vision. Aubrey left without another word. Maya sat back down. The folding chair creaked under her. Trisha returned moments later, holding a printed sheet. Program draft for the digital re-release, she said. They want to make sure the credits are accurate this time. Maya scanned the list. Her eyes stopped at the final line. Finale. Look. Designed by Clara Torres, creative lead. Maya Torres. She traced her finger over the words, then folded the paper in half and tucked it into her bag. The models had started leaving. Makeup was being wiped off. Shoes changed for sneakers. But no one moved with hurry. No one packed in silence. It wasn't the end of something. It was the afterglow. Clara sat next to her, quiet now. Did you ever think it would feel like this? The girl asked. Maya thought for a moment. I thought it would hurt. And does it? Maya shook her head. No. It feels like breathing again. Trisha tapped her phone once. Trendline just posted a photo of you two. No caption. Just your names. It's already gone viral. Clara looked up. Are we in trouble? Maya chuckled. No. We're finally visible. They sat together a while longer as the room slowly emptied, one pair of heels at a time, one stitched memory at a time. Outside, the building's glass facade reflected a city soaked in warm night light. Inside, a mother and daughter sat beside a dress they created together, built not just from fabric and thread, but from everything they'd survived to reach this moment. The building was nearly empty when Maya stepped back into the prep room one last time. The lights were dimmed now, shadows soft against the white walls and folded fabric. Garment bags hung in neat rows, zipped and tagged, ready for pickup. Silence had replaced chaos. She walked slowly past the tables where the dresses had been reshaped, her fingertips brushing the edge of one of Clara's pinned sketches still taped to the wall. The paper fluttered slightly under her touch, like it had a memory of motion. Clara trailed a few steps behind her, still in the same sneakers, still hugging her sketch pad. Feels weird without everyone in here, she said. It should, Maya replied. This was never just a room. It became something else. She stopped in front of Look 12's mannequin, now bare. Only the form remained, a body waiting to be dressed again. Clara placed a hand on the stand. I think she carried it better than we imagined. She did, Maya said softly. But it wasn't just the dress. What was it? The moment. The choice to finish something we never thought would be seen. They sat down on the bench near the window, where, days ago, Clara had quietly drawn while her mother mopped. Now, they sat together, not in the margins, but in the center of something that had unfolded entirely because of them. I saved something, Clara said, digging into her bag. She pulled out the manila envelope Maya had received earlier in the week, the one with the magazine clipping Trisha had slipped her. I didn't want you to lose it again. Maya unfolded the page. The photo was faded, but the eyes were the same, younger, brighter. Her hand rested on a dress that had once closed Milan. The headline still read, Torres of Milan, the architect of emotion. She read it slowly this time, not for validation, but for closure. Do you want to design again? Clara asked. Maya smiled faintly. I never stopped. But for the world, I mean. For real, Maya considered it. I think I want to build something better this time. On our terms, Clara nodded. With our name. With our name, Maya agreed. From the prep room window, they could see the last of the guests stepping into rides. Somewhere down the block, flashes still popped from a photographer's camera. But inside, there was only warmth. Trisha appeared at the doorway, jacket over her arm, expression softer than Maya had ever seen. They're holding the boardroom open if you want to debrief, she said. No pressure. Just, the Callahans want to talk about next steps. Maya stood, stretched, and glanced at Clara. Are you tired? She asked. Clara shook her head. Then let's go hear what they have to say. As they walked out, Maya paused beside the janitor's closet. The door was slightly ajar. Inside sat the rolling cart, the mop, the gloves, the empty rack. She reached in, removed her name tag, Maya T., Night Crew, and held it in her hand for a long moment. Then she placed it carefully on the top shelf and shut the door. No bitterness, no regret, just a full stop. 1 week later, the press had done what the press does, run with the mystery. Articles called her the hidden hand behind the runway revival. Some guessed at her background, Others speculated on the abrupt exit of the original designer. But what they couldn't deny was the dress, the name, and behind that name, an echo everyone was beginning to hear again. A mother, a janitor, a designer, a teacher, and most importantly, a woman no one saw coming. She sat now on the balcony of their small apartment, sketchpad in her lap, tea cooling beside her. Clara sat across from her, sleeves rolled, sketching quietly. The light between them was soft, golden, the kind that made you feel like you had time. "I think we should start with a small capsule," Clara said. "5 looks, 1 theme, a message," Maya smiled. "And what's the message?" Clara looked up. "That we don't need permission to be seen." Maya nodded slowly. "That's a good place to start." The tea had gone cold. The fabric samples on the table fluttered in the breeze. But none of it mattered more than this. They were no longer working to prove anything. They were working to create, to build, to write their names in thread and shape and movement. So even if no one said them out loud, they would be felt. And this time, no one could erase them. Subscribe and don't miss our next story. They kicked the single mom janitor out of the staff meeting. She returned as the owner's sister who just bought majority shares. Trust me, you'll feel it. And tell me in the IAS Comments, what injustice should we tackle next?